and today we're going to be taking a look at Berserk. Now this is an anime I have watched before, but I had to rewatch it again mainly because it has been quite a while, and it is considered as a dark fantasy and horror, which is kind of interesting. So there's not a whole lot I can say just before that, so now let's talk about the story. So it's the Middle Ages and it starts off with a character named Guts, because, you know, he's got guts. Okay, I really had to make that joke there, but anyways. He's a wandering swordsman who just likes to do things by his own rules. And of course, one of Guts' trademark is that his giant-ass sword is very iconic looking. So after getting a bit of money after winning a fight, someone really wants him to join his army because he's a really good swordsman, but he declines and decides to go on his own path. But while doing so, he gets ambushed by a bunch of douchebags, who are a part of a mercenary group called the Band of Hawks. But not everyone there is a douchebag, just some of them. So Guts ends up killing like 2 people, and then a woman interferes. And her name is Casca, and she's like the only woman in the Band of Hawks. So they end up fighting, but no one gets killed, and she seems to be holding them off pretty well. But then the leader of the Band of Hawks named Griffith shows up, but he really wants Guts to join his side because he's a very capable fighter. And of course Guts says no, so they end up having a bet and saying that whoever wins gets to do whatever they want. So they end up fighting, and then Guts ends up getting his arm dislocated, so now he is a part of the Band of Hawks. So what they mostly do is that they take out some bandits and take out some soldiers from the 100-Year War, and eventually they do happen to fight a demon named Nosferatu. Now one thing I forgot to explain was that in the very first episode it actually takes place in the future. Well, not that much in the future, but you know, when Guts is much older. And he ends up fighting a giant monster, and he ends up killing it, but then he realizes that it has the exact same necklace as Griffith. So with that being said, there's a lot of things in here that I'm not going to explain because it would involve a lot of backstory and shit, and of course spoilers. So yeah, there are a couple times in this show where it does time skip, and eventually the Band of Hawks gets recognized by the nobility, and that's how they really get involved with the 100-Year War against Trudor. And I think that covers most of what you need to know within Berserk. Now the story is not really complicated by any means, but like I said, there's a lot of backstory and character development, so with that being said, I'm not going to say much detail on that. So it's fantasy set in the medieval times with a bunch of monsters, and of course you get Guts just like killing massive amount of people. So I do apologize that I'm not going to talk a whole lot about it, but I will have to say that it's definitely worth watching. And I'm well aware that comparisons to the manga and the anime, they actually did change quite a bit. Now I have read like very little of it like many years ago, but I really can't remember the differences, and really I'm not trying to compare it with the manga it's based on. But one thing that is interesting to note is that the creator of the manga, Kentaro Miura, actually did approve of the changes that they made. So you know, it's not like they did it because they wanted to butcher it or something. So yeah, they did change a couple of things, but even with the change that they did make, at least everything actually makes sense and it's actually, you know, really fucking good. But one last thing I have to say about the story itself is that I really like the characters, I like the setting, the backstories are very well done, and even some of the historical stuff is actually done pretty well too. Well, you know, despite the whole demon shit. So overall, I have to say I really did enjoy the story in this one. So now let's move on to the animation. And what can I say, the animation is pretty damn good. Now this show is pretty damn dark and gritty, and of course, it actually suits that theme very well. So the action scenes look great, the blood effects look kinda cool for the time. Although I do have one complaint, but it's really just a minor thing, but I think I would like to mention it anyway, is that there are some parts in the background whenever you see like a fire going on, the fire isn't moving. It's kind of just laid flat like right there, and well, I think it would have been a nice touch if they actually made it move while like everything else is going around, but no, instead they just make it just flat like that. But either way though, that's just a small thing. But other than that, everything else looks great and very suits the dark and gritty feel of this show. Now I forgot to mention that yeah, this show is really dark and it's also very depressing. Now, I'm not going to get into why that is, because, you know, I think you should watch the show yourselves, or read the manga, or watch the movies, whatever. So yeah, there's a lot of unsettling moments within this show, but of course I don't mind it here because, you know, at least it actually suits the show. I mean, it's not like this show is trying to be, like, you know, lighthearted and campy, and then out of nowhere you have someone, like, getting their head cut off. So anyways, let's move on, and, well, let's talk about the music. And I have to say, the music is pretty good, and it does suit the show pretty well, although I know some of the songs do sound kinda weird, but, you know, I don't mind it. I mean, it's not like it's super unfitting or anything, it just sounds strange. So no real complaints there, but as for the intro, oh man. It's kinda awful. I mean, just for one, it doesn't even suit the tone of the show at all. It kinda sounds like something that the band Weezer would make. Now, I do like the band Weezer, but one of the things is that it does not suit the show whatsoever. And not only that, but it sounds fucking awful. I mean, for one, I find the guitar sounds like it's out of tune, and the voice is just really annoying. Why this is the theme of this kind of show, I have no idea who the hell made it so, but if you really needed to have something suiting this, I mean, I don't know, maybe something like Manowar or Hammerfall or something similar to that would have worked fine. So yeah, the opening theme song, yeah, I really didn't like it, but at least they got the ending theme song pretty good, so thankfully that makes up for it. Now, as for the voice acting, it's surprisingly not too bad. I mean, it's not great, but it's not awful either. But thankfully, they did get the main cast pretty well. So you got Mark Darrison playing Guts, and I think he actually does the role really well. Now, I'm sure that wasn't the best option that they could have had, but for what it was, I think he did do pretty well. And then you got Kevin T. Collins playing Griffith, and I found that one was pretty good too. And then Kira Kiranen is playing Keska, and she also does a really damn good job as her. Then again, she was one of the few ones I actually really recognized out of here. But as for the rest of the voices, they're either okay, not bad, or, you know, not very good, but not awful. The only other voice actor I really recognized was Dan Green. Yeah, fucking Yugi played in this show. So overall, the voice acting is okay, but at least the main cast is good. So for now, if I were to rate this one, I think I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I found the story was great, the setting was great, the characters were great, the animation was great, and the music is great too, except for, you know, the whole intro thing, but thankfully, intros, you can at least skip them. And even with some of the changes that were made for this show, I think it was handled pretty well. No, I'm sure there are some purists out there that hate it because it is changed so much, but you know what? The story that they told was still good. Now, a good example of this, although of course I'm comparing this to a movie, is that if you ever watched the movie Misery and read the book for it, they are both a bit different, but they are both still great for their own reasons. And I think when it comes to Berserk, it's pretty much the same thing, although unfortunately I never finished the manga, but I'm willing to bet that it's pretty much just as good here. Now, one thing I would like to mention is that some of the movies that they made, such as like Berserk The Golden Age, there's actually 3 of them. Unfortunately, I haven't seen them, but I really would like to. So with that being said, I can highly recommend this one, unless you're sensitive to blood and gore and some very depressing stuff. But if you're not sensitive to that kind of thing and this sounds like it's up your alley, then yeah, Berserk fucking rocks.